Good morning, guys. I think that's everyone on the webinar, so we can probably get started. My name's Arya. I'm joined today by my colleague Dave, and we're going to be talking to you today about how to get through a pandemic with 100 digital tactics for marketing resilience and growth. Now, don't worry, we're not actually going to be covering all 100 of those today. We're just going to basically, I think it's like 7 in total that we're going to be looking at. So we're going to take you through those ones because we think those are the ones that really spell out marketing resilience and growth. That being said, though, there is a survey that we'll be sending out at the end of this webinar, and within there, it's going to be asking you things such as, whether you found the survey, the webinar useful, any spaces for us to improve on, and so on. And most importantly, I guess, if we are going to do this again, there's a section in there for you guys to feed back to us what sort of things you'd like us to be talking about. And this is really useful because there's another, I think, 93 tactics that we won't be covering today. So if there's any of those ones that you think will be particularly useful, please do let us know. But without any further ado, I want to open up this webinar by rather unconventionally showing you guys a photo of my family. That's me on the right there. And I've spent the last few years of my life helping brands such as Argos basically leverage and compile their first-party data in order to get the most out of it when it comes to marketing and analytics. The lady second on the left is my mom. And actually, a few weeks ago, it was her birthday. So me and my sister there, we got together on a Zoom call and we wanted to try and figure out what we could do to celebrate her birthday. And I think we quite quickly came to the natural conclusion it would be great to take her to her favourite restaurant in London. So we took a look on the website, still on the Zoom call, took a look on the website and saw that the opening hours were looking good, everything seemed to be fine. And I could see as well they had an option to book a table. So I actually went ahead and booked the table. I got sent a confirmation email, I got sent a confirmation text. We're looking pretty good at this stage. So at this point, I'm thinking that everything's fine. And fast forward a week later, we drive the 45 minutes it takes to get there, and we got dressed up and everything, so it's a pretty big deal. When we get there, as you can probably tell from where I'm going with the story, unfortunately we found that it was closed. And this was really disappointing for me and quite frustrating, because I was started thinking, well, these guys had my email address, my mobile number. They had a few different ways of communicating with me that they just didn't take advantage of. And that's me kind of thinking about it from a marketing and data point of view. You've obviously got my family who are pretty disappointed about this, and it's not necessarily ruined our night, but we then had to make alternative plans. I think we went to McDonald's on the way back, so I guess it all worked out. But it still didn't change the fact that I came away with a bit of a negative experience about this restaurant, of which we've been going to for quite some time, even before we even reached London. But on the flip side, something that happened to me, I think it was like the following day, same week at least. You remember like the barbers were opening a few weeks back? Well, I got a text from my barber I've been going to quite a long time. And he texted me and was like, hey Arya, like we're opening tomorrow. Do you want to come in the morning for like usual? It's like, yeah, Rez, that sounds great. I'll pop in. And when I went the next day, I'd seen that Rez had been pretty busy during lockdown. These are actual photos of his place. He'd moved 2 shops down to a much bigger unit, and he'd clearly got himself all geared up for what was coming with lockdown, with the pandemic, and what was coming up ahead. So he'd done things such as he had like a queuing system outside, like chairs for his customers in the fresh air. As an added bonus, he had a little speaker playing ambient music. He had an iPad at the front that he was using to capture customers' details. So he was taking I think it was like email address and mobile number. And I think he was taking it with the idea that he was going to be communicating with us, any further closing or opening. Just he wasn't too sure what was going to happen, so he needed our data so he could keep in touch with us. And he even had like the shields that you've probably seen in barbers, get a face mask. This guy was prepared. Like Rez had done really well, and it really got me doing like a contrast between the two businesses that I had an interaction with that week. You've got on the one hand Rez, who, bless him, arrived in this country not that long ago without a penny to his name and not that much experience in business and not that great grasp of English. And in the few years he's been here, he's done such an amazing job of setting up this business and, most importantly, getting such a good grasp on our marketing. He's understood our business and marketing really well. So well, in fact, that he's done a much better job than this big reputable restaurant that I won't name, but he's done a much better job than them, and I'm sure they've got a big marketing team, or at least a marketing team, that should have been able to do something better. So how come Rez was able to do all of these things that for me ticked all the boxes? So He'd identified me as a high value and loyal customer because I guess he understands that if anything's going to get him through like what's coming up ahead, it's going to be his like high value loyal customers. He's going to rely on them the most. So he's identified this high value customers. He sent me the targeted communication on the right channel, the right message at the right time, like tick tick tick. He's done all of the right things, and on top of that, he's even gone like a step above and like improved the customer experience for his customers as well. Not something that we traditionally think of as part of the marketing mix, but it is in there. It is important. So how come Res was able to do all of this so right and this restaurant wasn't? And this is where I've really got to thank Dave for this one, because when I came to him with this idea, he really let me run with it. But it got me thinking that as many of us in marketing, especially in the bigger businesses, we should be like Res. We want to be able to communicate with our customers the same way that Res was able to communicate with me. We want to be able to have that like personal interaction with all of our customers, but on the bigger scale. And we want to be able to understand like our high value customers and have that insight, but again, on that bigger scale. In some ways, maybe it's a little bit easier for Res because he doesn't have as many customers, so he can actually do that on a personal basis, one-to-one. But as we grow in scale, like how do we then build that up? And when I spoke to Dave about this, he was like, well, you've really got to think about how you think of marketing. And I know my colleague Rick has mentioned this in the past. I completely agree. But for me, marketing is like a sport. So when I think of it, some people do it to keep their heart rate down. Some people are just doing it because they want to stay fit. Maybe they want to see nice views of the park every now and then, but they're just doing it to kind of like tick along. And then for others, they're doing it to win. Like they want to take home gold. They want to win the medals. They want to do everything they can in order to compete and just be the absolute best that they can. And I guess in many ways, that kind of applies to a lot of professions. You've really got to think about which of those two categories you're going to sit in. But then for me, if you want to be winning gold and if you want to be taking home these medals, you've really got to think about all of the tools that you have available at your disposal. And that's where I think for marketing, a lot of us will often turn to advertising. And you can think of advertising in many ways like a protein shake. It's the fuel that's supposed to be there to help you perform better. It's a supplement. It's not supposed to actually replace proper training, the right strategy, the right marketing plan. It's supposed to just, help supplement things. But the problem I found is that a lot of brands, in my experience and in my opinion, end up using advertising not as a protein shake, but they use it as a steroid. They just pump themselves full of it and hope for the best. They spend so much money on advertising, and just as steroids in real life do, this actually has problems because in one hand, it can mask your weaknesses. It can hide problems in your body, in your marketing plan, in your marketing strategy. It can hide the issues that you're actually facing because you're just spending advertising money to cover it up. You'll never get that feedback. And on the other hand, if you're unlucky, I guess, it can go wrong. Like you can actually cause damage to your body. You can cause damage to your marketing. You can cause damage to your business because it's just going to accentuate a problem that was underlying you might not have known was there. So you've really got to watch out for this. And I think one of the things that's really happened is that COVID has made businesses aware of how susceptible they are to these changes. They've realized how reliant they were on advertising. And I think instead customers have started asking themselves, brands have started advertising themselves, what do we need to be using instead? Like if we shouldn't be just relying on our traditional techniques so much, what should we use instead? And we kind of wanted the same thing, and we surveyed our customers or our clients and our prospects as well to try and find out. I think the question we asked them was like, what are the top 3 things that you wished you had before you went into a pandemic? And the overwhelming majority came back and said to us that they wish they had better insights before they went into a pandemic. And I think, like, in many ways, that kind of makes sense. Like, it fits into our athletics metaphor really well. Like, you can think of insights as our Apple Watches, our Fitbits. It's all the data that we have on our body. It's all the ability that we have in order to track things. And this completely makes sense because if you want to win the gold medals I was talking about, you've really got to go away and you've got to analyze every part of your body, every part of your training. You've got to get all of the data in and find the insights to see where you need to be spending your time and effort. And this is exactly the same with marketing. If you want to be doing really well, you've got to go away and optimize every little thing. And I think COVID has potentially shone a light on the fact that marketers don't necessarily have as much insights immediately available to them as they would like, whether that's just a lack of data or there's too many barriers between them actually getting the insights out of the data. maybe that you have a BI team that you need to go through in order to get these things. So I think it's made people or marketers particularly aware of like how much they need to have these things a lot quicker. And if you're able to get on top of this, if you're able to kind of understand your insights a lot better, that's when you're going to be able to start building the resilience into your marketing strategy. You need to be able to identify what your product demand changes are, what's rising and falling based off everything that's been going on recently, and you need to be able to identify your high value customers. And I think I mentioned earlier about advertising. Is one thing I didn't say was that there's been a lot of discussion about whether brands should or shouldn't be advertising right now. And I've been reading up about all this debate. I've been involved in a few conversations about it. And for me, my take on this is that it's almost as if we shouldn't be having the discussion about whether we should or shouldn't be advertising. The discussion should be, okay, if you want to advertise, what are you going to talk to your customers about if you don't have the insights right now? Things have changed so much. And I think traditionally a lot of people would rely on gut feel to kind of figure out, like, oh, we think our customers want to hear this right now. That is so risky and dangerous in a time of such fast-paced change that really right now, more than anything, you need to have the data to back up your decision making. You need to have the insights to know where you want to be focusing on. And I think as if our lives weren't hard enough, GDPR definitely makes this harder. And amongst everything that we've got right now, we've got GDPR breathing down our neck. It's taking away the ability and the value that we had to use third-party data. So we have to focus more and more on first-party data. And I think all of us know the true value behind first-party data. And I mean, it really comes down to that competitive edge in many ways. It's the data that your competitors don't have. It's the data about your body, your marketing plan, like your business. Like it's really personal to you, and that's really critical. And I think with such a changing and dynamic landscape, we can never be 100% sure what's around the corner next. But one thing is for sure, it's that the next 12 months is going to be a really challenging time for many businesses. And for marketing teams across the country, it's going to be all about getting customers the information they need when they need it. And each company is going to have their own interpretation of how to approach this, but every company is going to be dealing with the same fact, and that's that the way we communicate with our customers has to be more intelligent and more resilient than it ever has been before. So that probably leads us on to what does resilient look like. In many ways we can think of it a lot like an immune system, and businesses need to boost or think about the tactics that they need to implement to boost their immune system up against the changes and the times that are coming up against us. And I think that's where our playbook really comes into play. We went away and we thought about the 100 tactics that can be used, and there are all things in there that should be like concrete, actionable tactics for you guys to have a think about and implement into your marketing. And I think for us, there's a lot within here that really spells out the resilience that you're going to need over the upcoming months. So what we did was my colleague Dave, he went out and he picked, I think it's the 7 he's picked, the 7 best tactics that are going to help build resilience, like the 7 ones that mean resilience to him. So without any further ado, I'd like to hand you over to my colleague Dave, who's going to take us through that.
So thanks for that, Arya. We've put together a collection of 100 tactics, as mentioned, and I'm going to be taking you through a few of those now, actually just highlighting 7 of them, which we think are really simple to apply and should offer some real growth and that future resilience you're looking for. We've also split out these tactics into each of the 4 categories we can see, so acquire, nurture, grow, and then retain. And when you're thinking about your customers and the journeys they'll be taking, you'll be starting at one end of the scale by acquiring them, and then moving them through these different steps to build a relationship with the ultimate goal of retaining them for as long as possible. I've also put a few examples in these sections, but this isn't an extensive list. As we mentioned, there are over 100 of these ready for you in our playbook, which you'll get access to at the end of the session. We've mentioned a couple of times that the main focus of today is how to build resilience, and that's not going to be achieved by applying one big tactic that's going to drastically alter your marketing. It's going to be achieved by optimizing everything you're doing through a number of small improvements. Some of these might seem quite simple, but if you work through them and apply as many as possible, you're going to be in a strong position regardless of how things change again in the future. If you're thinking, I'm already doing some of these, it's going to be worth noting things that you can do to help improve them. So there's always going to be improvements that you can make, and that's really about what this session is going to be about. Okay, let's move on to the first tactic we're looking at today. It's number 12, data capture. This is something that I know a little bit about actually, because before I started working in my current role at Mapp, I was actually part of the campaigns team here. And the biggest thing that I took away from that time is that companies still aren't making the most out of capturing data from their potential customers. This might seem like a really simple concept, collecting data, building profiles, being more targeted with your messages, but there's still a lot of opportunities to improve how you're doing all of this. Let's start with why this is important. If you've been to a restaurant recently, you might have seen these kind of signs. I've been out a few times in the last couple of weeks, and now every time you enter a restaurant, you need to give them your name and a mobile number or an email address. This is a brand new type of data collection and a brand new source of data, so there could be some new potential to tap into that. Just before we get into the tactic, we're not saying here that you should start instantly using all of that data. You obviously need to get the right consent. Make sure you have the consent tick boxes on any forms that you're using if you are going to be sending marketing messages. But what we'll be thinking about are there any ways of using this new opportunity to actually start opting people in. So let's first concentrate on the in-store aspect of the data collection. What I've been experiencing now, and I'm sure a lot of you have seen it too, or maybe it's happening to yourself, people are pretty willing to part with their data to get a better experience, whether that's online or in person. People know that they have to give away some of that information to get access to certain places like the restaurants, and it looks as though that willingness is going to continue into other aspects as well. If we think about the new rules surrounding wearing masks in shops that are coming into force on Friday, it's not a massive leap to think that the same rules of leaving personal data won't soon be applied when entering other businesses. And if this is the case, you need to be thinking about the most efficient ways that you can actually enhance that whole experience for the customer, and maybe even start bringing in some of that data collection we're talking about. Something which is pretty widely adopted in the hospitality sector at the moment is QR codes, and these can offer a really quick and simple way for customers to get access to those targeted landing pages, so they can just scan it on their phone, fill out the details on the mobile, and then all of that's there, and then possibly that's the place where you're asking them to opt into your messaging. If you go down the same route as Aria's Barber Res, then you can think about in-store terminals, capturing data that way. So that's going to be really useful if you have staff on a floor of a shop, so they can do the inputting themselves. But another tactic is also capturing that data at the point of sale. So building in e-receipts, thinking about actually using that then to build all that data up, and that's going to have the knock-on effect of letting you attribute all of those offline sales to a wider data set, including all that online activity too. If you don't have the ability to capture data in person, then optimizing your online data collection is going to be key. This isn't about showing a pop-up to capture someone's email address, even though that's definitely something you should be doing. It's more about capturing data and how people are interacting with your websites and the web assets. If you can monitor individuals' actions, you can see where they're dropping off and not completing that one that you want them to do. And if you're managing to monitor all of this and use your data properly, you can help then turn those anonymous browsers into real paying customers. Let's think about how Mapp Cloud can help you here. When you're capturing all of that data, whether that's through landing pages, they can be created within our platform. And also, if there's any other ways that you're creating those pages on your own, you can always use our APIs to stream all of that data in. So it really doesn't matter how you're bringing data into our platform, through that API, batch upload, these landing pages, integrations. Once it's all there, you're going to have this centralized place to visualize it all. And that's what we're looking at here with our unified customer profile. So a number of our large brands use this, and they're making use of pretty much all these features at Mapp. So we can see that the scale's there, but it doesn't matter the size of your business. You can definitely make use of these kind of features too, having those unified profiles, knowing everything about each of your individual customers, and then being able to use that data to start talking to them more personally. Okay, we can move on to the next tactic, and that's going to be number 14, product analytics. I'm sure you've seen these kind of pictures recently too. Streets completely empty. This one's Regent Street a couple of weeks ago, deserted because people's buying habits are changing. Another key to building the long-term resilience that we're looking for is to keep on top of these changes, making sure that you can react to them as soon as possible. So if there is another downturn and people aren't going into shops, or maybe their efforts are going to change to a different channel, then you need to be on top of that as soon as you can. For product analytics specifically, That'll be making sure you know which products are driving the most interest and which are selling at a higher rate than normal. So when you have these periods of growth, it's important that you're capitalizing on that and using all the data you have available to optimize the number of sales that you can make. You can also use that information to enhance each of those different customer experiences. So that can be done by showing them tailored products that they may be interested in, but can also be done by promoting products that are performing well with other customers who have a similar profile to them. Another common issue is that when you're seeing a surge in sales, especially for a specific product, you can be left with those going out of stock. And if this does happen, it's obviously a problem that you need to address from a stock point of view. But if you still have paid media campaigns driving traffic to those products, that's going to be costing you. And if they're not available to buy, then you're going to be losing a lot of money for absolutely no reason. So you need to be staying on top of those changes and making sure that if you do have any marketing efforts, that they're not being paid for and driving to products that are out of stock. Again, this is where Mapp can help, and this is what we're seeing here in our intelligence dashboards. So in our analytics package here, we can see how each of these different products are changing, and we can see the different trends here as well. So daily trends about how products are going in and out of stock, adding to cart rate, purchase rates. So really in-depth information that you can see and keep on top of. Make sure you're monitoring all of those changes. And this is going to be really important when you're thinking about making sure that if there are any different downturns, maybe we do have a second wave, that you're already ahead of the curve and that you know everything that's going on in your inventory. Okay, we can move on to the next tactic then, which is number 75, VIP content. When we were planning this webinar, Aria said to me, "Nothing says resilience more than loyalty." And as well as that being a quote that I'm sure he once attributed to himself, it is really, really important. If you keep your most loyal customers happy, it will help in both the good times and the bad times. These are one of the most critical groups of customers that you've got, and they can sustain your business more than anyone else. A knock-on effect here is increasing your customer base through referrals and by keeping your core customers happy. And if you do that, they're going to be much more willing to spread the word about you. Online social proof is something that we've been talking about a bit later, but social proof through word of mouth can really help with building that resilience again. So just the ability to have that free marketing, people telling everyone else how good your business is, if you keep those core customers happy, that's going to happen naturally. At its most basic form, this means you need to be more personalized with your messaging. Some ideas here could be rewarding your loyal customers with exclusive offers or content, maybe giving some behind the scenes access, or maybe simply just giving them access to content which could be normally behind a paywall. And that's going to really help build that relationship. For e-commerce businesses, simple things such as getting access to sales early can be really effective. Just giving people a chance to get a discount before anyone else probably shouldn't cost you anything, and it allows you to make those VIP customers feel rewarded. You need to make sure though that you are actually rewarding those VIP customers in a slightly different way to everyone else. I've had companies where I've signed up to an email list. A couple of days later, I get an email telling me about my personalized sale. And whilst it could be a really valid tactic to have personalized sales, you need to make sure that the difference there is from your VIP customers just to someone who's just signed up. Because the last thing you want to do is one of your high spenders find out they're getting the same personal offers as someone who's just signed up. So again, this is where Mapp can help you. The first thing you need to do is understand the frequency of your VIP customers' purchases and how they're interacting with your brand. And that's what you're going to be doing again back in Mapp Intelligence. Keeping your finger on the pulse, seeing how these key customers are interacting. And another fall-on effect from that might be that when you see a trend with your core customers, it might show that actually that's going to follow on with your casual shoppers as well. So if you see a real upturn or a downturn in sales, then maybe that can be a precursor to things that's going to happen to your wider business. And within here as well as seeing all of those different VIP customers, you can explore any segment of different people that you have. So any group of customers that you've built up can be visualized in exactly the same way here. Once we've found those customers and we've found some insights, we want to move this into Mapp Engage. So this is where we take that insight and turn it into an action. And inside Mapp Engage here, we have our segmentation builder. It allows you to take those VIP customers, layer on top data that you might already have from CRM. It might be different online data, email, mobile feedback, lots of information that we can be storing about your customers, and we can use that to create these wider groups of people. And once we've built out those segments, we can use that in a few different places. So it could be the fact that we want to send an email to them straight away, or it could be that you decide that you want to insert a piece of content into one of those different emails just for that single person. So showing them a piece of personalized information that says, hey David, did you know that your personal sales starting today? Again, doesn't then require a whole email being sent out, but they're still getting that personalized experience. Okay, so the next tactic is going to be number 82, cross-channel campaigns. Communication's always been key. I'm sure we're all in agreement of that, but now it's more than ever. We've also mentioned earlier how people's shopping habits are changing, and with that shift to online means that more and more devices are being used. Getting the right message to people faster is important, and there's much more that you can do than just email. Interestingly, there are some recent studies that show at the start of the pandemic, mobile phone usage to make shopping purchases was down by around 9%. I don't think many people would have predicted that 6 months ago. I definitely didn't. But with this downswing, it means that you need to be on top of all those channels that you're communicating across. We're going to assume those numbers will rebound, but if you aren't connected across those channels and maybe some things change and you don't react fast enough, then you're going to be missing out on being able to get the message to those people. The key here is making sure that you're connecting across as many touch points as possible. So whether that's email, SMS, mobile push, online advertising, whatever way you do that, you still need to make sure that you're keeping that message consistent. So by hitting all of these different channels, you're going to be dramatically increasing the likelihood someone will see the content, and in turn this should turn into increased conversions that are driven from that single campaign. Again, this is where Mapp can help you. The first thing we're looking at here is our automation whiteboard. So creating cross-channel campaigns, and in Mapp this is really simple. So within here you drag in each of your different channels that you'd like to communicate across. Again, SMS, email, mobile push. You can arrange those so that you're communicating with the right time to different people, maybe all at the same time. And you can also use part of the platform to optimize to people's favorite devices or favorite channels. So a really simple way for you to actually create all these different automations. We also have the ability to start analyzing each of those different channels' performance. So within Mapp Intelligence, you'll easily be able to work out which is performing best, and this is going to help you optimize how you set up your different campaigns as well. So again, this is going to help link back all of that data together and keep those journeys as effective as possible. Okay, the next one we've got is number 23, social proof. There's a lot of uncertainty at the moment, and it's human nature to see what other people are doing before you do it yourself. Knowing people that are venturing out into shops and restaurants can give you the confidence to do it for yourself as well. I've had this experience with some of my family recently too. Some of them were a lot more worried than others, but you can see the type of effects working on them, and you can see their minds changing. I've just come back from a week in Cornwall, and when I was there I was sending updates to our family group chat, basically just sending pictures across. And after a couple of days of seeing those photos, my sister, who is by far the most concerned person, was looking to book a trip for herself. Fortunately, it seems everyone had the same ideas, prices have gone up massively and she's not going to be able to go, but it can just show the effect that this can have. 2 weeks ago, not interested in going anywhere like that at all, now really interested, and this just shows how social proof works. If we're thinking about applying this tactic to digital marketing, we need to show how many people are interacting with specific content or products. So it's the same concept. If people are uneasy about buying those certain products, the knowledge that other people are buying them or even looking at them is going to give them that confidence. And we can see here in the screenshot, we can apply these small banners into your messages, most commonly email, but can also be done online through other channels. And that's going to increase the urgency and accelerate that buying funnel. When we think about how Mapp can help with this, what we're seeing here is our email builder. This is where we can drag in content, we can bring in lots of different elements, you can create your emails without any knowledge of any code. So a really simple way of actually creating this content. And if one of those elements wanted to be your social proof, all you do is simply drag that in from the sidebar and select the products that you wanted to show, and on top of it, it's going to show how many people have been interacting or buying with that. So it's going to be a really, really simple tactic for you to implement this one. Once you're using our platform, you can easily just drop those elements in. Number 43, best time to send. Aria was talking about this earlier too, the idea that campaigns are set by gut feel. A lot of us, when we're setting campaigns, will think we know the right time a message should be sent, we've scheduled that in, and we've locked it away, never to change. And it could be that this was done in the past, it could be 6 months, a year ago, 2 years ago, still never been changed. And even if you did some testing before that to find out the best time, then are you checking it often enough to prove that it's valid? This is something that you need to be thinking about. The key here is that you need to make sure as many people as possible are viewing your message. So it needs to be as high up in your customer's inbox as possible when they open it. Getting your message into the inbox just they're reading is going to dramatically increase the chance they'll actually read the message, but take it all the way through to the website and hopefully perform that action you're looking for. So really, really good tactic to actually apply this one. Taking this through to how Mapp Cloud can help. The first step would be looking at our campaign dashboards, letting you analyze all that data and find trends in the best opening click times. So within here, we can see that certain times of day, maybe Friday morning, we're getting a lot of opens. At the same time on Friday, we're actually getting a lot of clicks. That seems to be performing quite well for us. But if you had been setting your send outs to be maybe a Wednesday afternoon and you weren't seeing any interactions until Thursday, maybe we can think about moving the schedule. Maybe we try out Thursday and we can build that into some testing as well. So at least then we can find out if other times of week are actually going to perform best. If you didn't want to do this manually, we have the option to use our best send out feature within Mapp. So we can see this is happening here within our automation whiteboard. What this does is uses a year's worth of data for each individual to find out when they're most commonly opening and clicking. So it looks at the last 52 weeks, with the last week being way more important than 52 weeks ago. And if I'm always clicking at 7 AM in the morning, it means that the next message that will be sent to me in this automation will be tomorrow at 7 AM. And if Aria was an 8 PM at night, the next message to him would be going at 8 PM tonight. So it's a really, really simple tactic again to implement. You simply tick the box and it's going to be picking out that individual's best time. So simple to implement and going to be really highly effective too. So the next one, number 98, churn prevention, moving into the retention stage now. You've done the hardest part to gain a customer, and so now you don't want to lose them, taking them through that acquire, nurturing, and if that has happened and they're currently on your website considering a purchase, how can you stop them from leaving and going to one of your competitors? To do this, you're going to need to know exactly where your customers are in their own personal journeys and if they're about to churn. If you can take those customers who are on the edge and talk to them in real time, or alter their normal messages such as business as usual emails, you have the chance to turn them back into an active customer. Churn prevention campaigns can be a really effective way to retain these customers that might be about to stop engaging with your brand. Let's think about the real-time aspect of this. When as users in session, their journey can fluctuate from being engaged to dropping off. Maybe they step away from their screen, maybe they're looking at another tab on their browser, and that normally results in people who look like they're about to convert and look like they're about to churn. And in the background, our AI is actually tracking and analysing all of this information to predict whether that person is going to be on one of those two sides. Again, all of this is happening in real time, so we can see in session if someone's about to convert or churn, and if it does look like they're about to churn, then we can use that information to start talking to them. We can actually layer all that information with other things that we know about them, so information about how many times they're in the browser, what they're doing, how many times they've been back to the website, have they got any products in their cart currently, what's the value of those products. So layering all that information together can then help us actually categorize these people. And we can build out what we call custom audiences or maybe remarketing lists here. And this one, the idea is that we've split everyone out into 5 different sections, from users who are likely to buy all the way through to people unlikely to buy with a high expected profitability. And you can see what we've done is decided to put different spend against each of these people in our remarketing. So it could be that everyone's seeing the same advert, but actually you realize that these people who possibly will buy or have a small chance, they're going to need the most spend to actually convert them. Users who are likely to buy, maybe we still want to put a decent amount of spend to them, but not as much as those others. And at the other end of the scale, we can see people who are unlikely to buy, but with the high expected profitability, still targeting them, but with a very small spend. And we actually completely discounted one of these groups. The unlikely to buy with low profitability, we're not going to show them an ad at all. So it's going to help you then target these different audiences, still speak to them in the same way maybe, but put different spend towards them. So another tactic that we can look at. So this is where Mapp Cloud can help you. What we're looking at here is our RFM model. We've actually split this one out into 6 different sections. This is completely set up when you get access to Mapp Intelligence, just using all of that raw data in the background to produce these 6 different categorizations. Again, taking people from the loyal customer segment all the way down the other end to the valuable churning. So it gives you the ability to come into here and say, we have 251 valuable churning customers, customer lifetime value expected of around 650. So that's going to be really good to be able to target these people. Now we know that about them, amazing, but what can we do? And this is where we can say in real time, we can show them messages, so pop-ups, we can change content on the site, we can push these people out to different display advertising platforms, or we can even take this segment of people, push them back into Mapp Engage, and actually start using that to start sending them out different communications such as email and SMS and mobile push. So it's going to give you that ability to start targeting these people across all of those different channels. And again, all of this is pre-configured and done for you in Mapp Intelligence. So we've covered off a few of those tactics now, spanning all the way from acquire, nurture, grow and into the retain stages. But there's a lot of other things that you can be doing, especially if you're trying to build that post-COVID resilience that we've been talking about. Some of the key things we think you should concentrate on are improving your customer insights and finding out in real time exactly what your core customers are doing. Also fixing the basics. Even though you might already have some of these tactics in place, it's more than likely that you can actually improve some of those. So you might need to be thinking about how you can do that. And enhancing your digital presence. But also sharing consistent messages across all of these different marketing channels too. Just before I pass you back to Aria, I want to give you a quick overview of the key modules in our Mapp Cloud software. So first we have Mapp Acquire. This is our module for collecting all of that rich online data and allowing you to build those known profiles of your existing customers. Also allows you to target anonymous browsers through our online advertising networks too. Mapp Engage, this is where we configure and send out messages through all of the key channels that we've been speaking about, so email, SMS, mobile push and in-app. And we have Mapp Intelligence, and this is where we gain all of those rich insights which we're using to power all our campaigns and also report on how they performed.
Okay, thank you, Dave. Thanks so much for that. It was really good to hear that. And yeah, I think that leads us nicely to a reminder of the Digital Marketing Playbook. So I think that's why maybe many of you are here, so you can get access to this. And we, as I was saying, I think at the beginning, this is basically where we've gone away and we put together 100 different tactics for you guys to help acquire, nurture, grow, and retain your customers. And they should all be actionable tactics that you can go away and implement into your marketing. A couple of them may not be so relevant, but I think the vast majority of these are going to be really useful for most people. So you've got 2 options. You can either visit the URL that we've got there in the bottom right hand corner, so improveyour.marketing, or alternatively, we are going to be sending out, the team are going to be sending out like links to a PDF version of this if you would like to use that instead as well. So there's 2 different ways you can use it. And on the website, you've got even the option to go on and set up an account and pick out the different tactics that you like most and you find interesting for your team. And you can even take it a step further and prioritize them high, medium, low. I really love how far we've ran with this idea. It's actually a really slick website. So hopefully you guys find that useful. And just as well, before we move on to the questions, a reminder please that we have got this survey at the end. And it would really mean a lot to Dave and I if you just took the 2 minutes to very quickly fill this in and let us know what you did like, what you didn't like, and what you'd like to see next. Or even if you'd like to see us again next. All of this is useful feedback for us. But I think we got a few questions throughout the actual webinar. So we're going to take a bit of time now. There's a little bit of time left. We're just going to go through some of the questions that we've seen in the chat. So Dave, yeah, should we start taking a look at these?